Salt spray stung Logan Barrett's face as he pressed his hands against her chest. Veronica Sterling's designer heels lay scattered in the sand, while her platinum business card fluttered nearby. "Come on, Veronica. Breathe," he whispered, his Stanford class ring catching the harsh afternoon sun. When her eyes finally opened, they weren't grateful. They were terrified, the same look she'd given him 15 years ago when he'd gotten too close. "Logan?" Her voice cracked like she'd been holding her breath for decades. He'd saved the life of the woman who'd been watching him from boardrooms and galas for years. But why did saving her feel like he'd just shattered the careful distance she'd spent a lifetime building? Logan Barrett had never expected his Saturday afternoon walk to turn into a rescue mission. He'd come to Monterey Bay with his 12-year-old daughter Harmony for their weekly father-daughter time, watching her build elaborate sandcastles while he checked emails on his phone. But when Harmony pointed toward the water and screamed, his corporate instincts vanished completely. A woman in an expensive navy suit was floating face down in the shallow waves, her body limp as the tide pulled her toward the rocks. Logan didn't hesitate. He sprinted into the surf, his designer jeans soaking instantly as he pulled her to shore. The moment he turned her over, recognition hit him like a physical blow. Veronica Sterling, the ice queen of West Coast real estate, the woman who controlled more commercial property than anyone under 40. The same woman who'd avoided him at every industry event for the past decade, slipping away whenever he approached, always keeping at least 3 people between them in any conversation. Now she lay unconscious in his arms, her usually perfect auburn hair matted with seawater, her face pale as porcelain. Logan positioned his hands on her sternum and began compressions, counting under his breath while Harmony called 911 from his phone. 30 compressions, 2 rescue breaths. The metallic taste of adrenaline filled his mouth as he worked, pushing water from her lungs with each compression. "Dad, is she going to be okay?" Harmony's voice trembled as she knelt beside them, her small hands hovering uncertainly over Veronica's still form. "She's going to be fine, sweetheart. Just keep the paramedics on the line." Logan tilted Veronica's head back, checking her airway before delivering another breath. Her lips were cold against his, and for a split second, he was transported back to Stanford, to stolen kisses behind the library when they were both young and stupid and thought the world belonged to them. That was before everything fell apart, before she disappeared from his life without explanation, leaving only a note saying she couldn't do this anymore. Before he threw himself into building his tech empire to forget her, only to discover she'd been building her own empire in the same city, the same circles, always just out of reach. Veronica's chest suddenly expanded on its own, and she coughed violently, seawater streaming from her mouth. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as they found his face. The recognition was instant, and so was the fear that followed. "Logan?" She tried to sit up, pushing against his chest with weak hands. "What are you? How did you—" "Easy, Veronica. You nearly drowned. Just lie still until the paramedics get here." Logan kept his voice gentle, but he couldn't hide the questions in his eyes. What had she been doing in the water, fully clothed? Had she fallen from the pier? And why did she look more terrified of him than of her near-death experience? The ambulance arrived with flashing lights and efficient chaos, paramedics checking her vitals while she insisted she was fine. Logan watched from a distance as they loaded her onto a stretcher, noting how she refused to meet his eyes. As the ambulance pulled away, he found her platinum business card half buried in the sand where she'd fallen, the embossed letters catching the afternoon light. "Dad, do you know her?" Harmony studied his face with the perceptive intelligence that sometimes made her seem older than her 12 years. Logan pocketed the business card and picked up Veronica's scattered heels, expensive Italian leather now ruined by salt water. "We went to college together a long time ago. She seemed scared of you." "Yeah, sweetheart." She did. Logan took his daughter's hand as they walked back to their car, but his mind was already racing ahead to the conversation he knew he needed to have. 15 years of careful avoidance had just come to an abrupt end, and this time he wasn't going to let Veronica disappear without answers. 3 days later, Logan stood in the marble lobby of Sterling Properties, her designer heels and business card in a small gift bag. The receptionist, a polished woman in her 30s, looked skeptical when he asked to see Veronica. "Ms. Sterling doesn't take unscheduled meetings. If you'd like to make an appointment, tell her Logan Barrett is here to return something that belongs to her." Logan's voice carried the quiet authority that had built his company from a garage startup to a billion-dollar empire. "She'll see me." The receptionist's eyes widened slightly at his name. Everyone in Silicon Valley knew Logan Barrett, the boy genius who'd turned social media algorithms into a fortune. She picked up her phone, spoke in hushed tones, then looked surprised at whatever response she received. "Top floor, executive elevator on your right." The ride to the 32nd floor gave Logan time to study his reflection in the polished steel doors. At 38, he'd grown into the kind of man his younger self had always aspired to be. Successful, confident, respected. But standing here, about to face Veronica again, he felt like that 22-year-old Stanford kid who'd been blindsided by her goodbye letter. Veronica's office was a study in controlled power. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a commanding view of San Francisco Bay, while sleek modern furniture and carefully chosen art pieces created an atmosphere of cool sophistication. She sat behind a glass desk that probably cost more than most people's cars, her auburn hair pulled back in a severe bun, her navy suit impeccable. "You shouldn't have come here, Logan." Her voice was steady, but Logan caught the slight tremor in her hands as she set down her pen. "You left these on the beach." Logan placed the gift bag on her desk, noting how she flinched when his fingers brushed the glass surface. "Along with about 10 years' worth of questions I've been too polite to ask." Veronica glanced in the bag but didn't open it. "Thank you for returning my things, and for what you did on the beach. I'm sure you have a company to run, so I won't keep you." "Actually, I cleared my schedule." Logan settled into the chair across from her desk without being invited. "Turns out nearly losing someone tends to put things in perspective, even someone who's spent 15 years pretending I don't exist." For the first time since he'd entered the office, Veronica's composure cracked. Her green eyes filled with something that looked like pain before she quickly looked away. "That's not... It's more complicated than you think." "Then explain it to me." Logan leaned forward, his voice gentler now. "Because I've spent 15 years wondering what I did wrong, wondering why the woman I loved disappeared overnight without a real explanation." "You didn't do anything wrong." The words came out barely above a whisper. "That was the problem." Before Logan could ask what she meant, Veronica's assistant knocked on the glass door. "Ms. Sterling, your 3 o'clock is here." "Cancel it." Veronica didn't take her eyes off Logan. "Cancel everything for the rest of the day." The assistant looked shocked, but nodded, closing the door behind her. Veronica stood and walked to the windows, her silhouette sharp against the afternoon sky. Logan followed, stopping close enough to see his reflection in the glass beside hers. "You want to know why I left?" Her voice was so quiet he had to strain to hear it. "It's because I knew you'd eventually want what I could never give you." "Veronica, nothing you could say would have been worth walking away from what we had." She turned to face him then, and Logan saw tears in her eyes for the first time since he'd known her. "Even if I told you I can never have children?" The words hit him like a physical blow. Logan stared at her, seeing the carefully constructed walls she'd built around herself in a completely different light. "What?" "Ovarian failure. Diagnosed when I was 19, just before I met you. The doctors said it was probably caused by the chemotherapy I had as a child for leukemia." Veronica's voice was clinical now, like she was discussing a business deal instead of the most intimate details of her life. "I knew you'd want a family someday. I'd seen how you talked about having kids, how your eyes lit up when you saw fathers with their children. I couldn't be the reason you never got to experience that. Logan felt the ground shift beneath him, 15 years of assumptions crumbling in an instant. So you made that decision for both of us, without even telling me? You were 22, Logan. You had your whole life ahead of you. I wasn't going to trap you in a relationship with someone who was broken. Broken. Logan's voice rose despite his efforts to stay calm. Veronica, you're many things, but broken isn't one of them. You don't understand. She turned back to the window, her reflection ghost-like in the glass. I spent my entire 20s and 30s building this company because it was the only thing I could create, the only legacy I could leave behind. I became exactly what everyone said I was: cold, calculating, ruthless, because it was easier than admitting I was just empty. Logan moved behind her, close enough to see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands trembled against the glass. You know I have a daughter, Harmony. I know. Veronica's smile was sad when she met his eyes in the reflection. I've seen the pictures in Forbes, the articles about how the brilliant CEO balances fatherhood and business. She's beautiful. Her mother was a one-night stand when I was 25. Someone I met at a conference in Vegas, trying to forget about you. Logan's honesty was brutal in its simplicity. When she told me she was pregnant, I did the right thing. Proposed, tried to make it work. But she never wanted to be a mother, Veronica. She left when Harmony was 2 years old, signed away her parental rights. And I've been raising her alone ever since. Veronica's reflection went very still. Logan, do you want to know the truth? Every birthday party I threw, every bedtime story I read, every parent-teacher conference I attended, I thought about you. I wondered what it would have been like if you'd stayed, if we'd figured it out together. Logan placed his hand against the glass beside hers, their fingers separated by the cold surface. You think I got the family I wanted? I got a daughter I love more than life itself, but I never got the woman I wanted to share it with. The tears Veronica had been holding back finally spilled over, creating tracks down her perfectly made-up cheeks. You don't know what you're saying. I'm saying I spent 15 years looking for you in every woman I dated. I'm saying that when I saw you unconscious on that beach, the only thing I could think about was how I couldn't lose you again before I told you the truth. Veronica turned to face him fully, her green eyes searching his face. What truth? That I never stopped loving you. Not for a day, not for an hour. Logan reached up to wipe away her tears with his thumb. And that if you'd told me about your diagnosis 15 years ago, I would have said the same thing I'm saying now. It doesn't matter. We could have figured it out. We could have adopted, used a surrogate, or just been happy with the family we created together. But you took that choice away from both of us. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself. Logan's voice was gentle but firm. And I understand why. But we're not 22 anymore, Veronica. We're adults who've built our own empires, who've survived our own losses. Don't you think we deserve a chance to see what we could build together? Veronica closed her eyes, leaning into his touch despite herself. Logan, I don't know how to be anything other than what I am now. I don't know how to be soft, or vulnerable, or normal. I'm not asking you to be someone else. I'm asking you to be yourself. With me. Logan moved closer, until there was barely an inch between them. The woman who used to stay up all night debugging code just because she loved solving impossible problems. The woman who cried during every Disney movie but pretended it was allergies. The woman who believed we could change the world if we just worked hard enough. That woman was naive. That woman was real. And she's still in there, even if you've buried her under 15 years of defense mechanisms. Logan cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. I fell in love with a brilliant, complicated, passionate woman who happened to have medical challenges, not with her reproductive system. For a long moment, they stood frozen in the fading afternoon light. 15 years of longing and regret, hanging between them like a bridge neither dared to cross. Then Veronica reached up and placed her hand over his, her fingers interlacing with his against her cheek. "I've watched you, you know," she whispered. "At conferences, at charity galas. I've seen what an amazing father you are, how much you love harmony, and every time I convinced myself I'd made the right choice, because look how perfect your life turned out." "My life isn't perfect, Veronica. It's successful, it's stable, it's everything I worked for. But it's not complete." Logan rested his forehead against hers. "There's been a Veronica-shaped hole in it for 15 years. She laughed despite her tears, the sound breaking something loose in both of them. "A Veronica-shaped hole? Really? That's your big romantic declaration?" "I'm a tech CEO, not a poet." Logan smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him since the beach. "But if you want poetry, I can hire someone to write you sonnets. I can buy you flowers every day for the rest of our lives. I can learn to dance, take cooking classes, read every romance novel ever written if it helps me figure out how to love you the way you deserve." "Logan, stop." Veronica pulled back enough to look at him properly. "You already know how to love me. You've always known. I'm the one who forgot how to be loved." Before he could respond, she kissed him. It was tentative at first, as if she was testing whether this moment was real or just another dream she'd wake up from. But when Logan kissed her back with 15 years of pent-up longing, she melted into him like she'd never left. When they finally broke apart, breathless and shaking, Veronica rested her head against his chest. "What happens now?" "Now we figure it out together." Logan's arms tightened around her. "All of it. The past, the present, the future. But this time, we make decisions as a team." "I don't know if I'll be good at that." "Lucky for you, I'm excellent at collaboration. It's kind of my thing." Logan pulled back to look at her, his eyes serious despite his light tone. "But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "No more running. No more deciding what's best for me without asking me first. If we're going to do this, we do it honestly. All the messy, complicated, beautiful honesty we were too young to handle before." Veronica nodded, her hand finding the Stanford class ring on his finger and twisting it gently. "I kept track of you, you know. Your company, your patents, your philanthropy work. I even bought stock in Barrett Technologies, just so I'd get the annual reports." "Stalker." Logan grinned, catching her hand and pressing it flat against his chest. "I drove past your building every day for 3 years after you left, hoping I'd run into you in the lobby. We're both pathetic. We're both in love." Logan's expression grew serious again. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Veronica was quiet for a long moment, her eyes distant as she worked through whatever internal calculation she was running. Logan had seen that look countless times during their college years, usually right before she solved some problem that had been stumping their entire computer science class. "I want to meet her," she said finally. "Harmony. If we're going to do this, if we're going to try to build something real, I need to know if she's okay with having me in your lives." Logan felt something tight in his chest finally loosen. "She's going to love you." "You don't know that." "I do, actually. She's been asking for years why I don't date anyone seriously. Last week she told me she thought I was waiting for someone special to come back." Logan smiled at the memory. "Turns out 12-year-olds are more perceptive than their fathers sometimes." That evening, Logan called Harmony from Veronica's office while she worked late, finalizing a deal that would bring affordable housing to 3 Bay Area communities. Watching her negotiate with city planners and architects, seeing the passion she brought to projects that would actually help people, Logan realized that the woman he'd fallen in love with in college was still there. She'd just learned to channel her idealism into practical action. "Dad, you sound different," Harmony said over the phone, her voice carrying the wisdom that constantly surprised him. "Happy different. I have someone I'd like you to meet, sweetheart. Someone very important to me." "Is it the lady from the beach? The one who was scared?" Logan glanced at Veronica, who had stopped typing to listen to his side of the conversation. "How did you kept her shoes, Dad? And you've been checking your phone every 5 minutes since Saturday, like you're waiting for someone to call." Harmony's giggle was exactly like her mother's, but her insight was purely her own. "Plus, you looked at her the way you look at me when I accomplish something really hard. And how is that? Like she's the most important person in the world." Logan felt his throat tighten with emotion. "Would you like to have dinner with us tomorrow night? Nothing fancy, just pizza and getting to know each other." "Can I ask her about being a CEO? I want to know if it's hard being the only woman boss in her company." "You can ask her anything you want, Harmony. Just be yourself." After he hung up, Veronica looked at him with something approaching wonder. She wants to know about being a female CEO? She wants to know about everything. Harmony's convinced she's going to run her own company someday, probably before she turns 18. Logan moved to the couch in Veronica's office, pulling her down beside him. "Fair warning. She's going to interview you like you're applying for a very important job." "I am applying for a very important job." Veronica curled against his side, her head fitting perfectly in the space between his shoulder and his neck. "I just hope I'm qualified." "Veronica, you've built a billion-dollar empire while maintaining your ethics and creating positive change in your community. I think you can handle one 12-year-old. It's not her I'm worried about, it's me." Veronica's voice was small, vulnerable in a way he'd never heard before. "I don't know how to be a mother figure. I don't know how to braid hair or help with homework or any of the things that good mothers do." "You don't have to be her mother," Logan said gently. "She already had one, and it didn't work out well for anyone involved. But you could be her friend, her mentor, someone who shows her that women can be brilliant and successful and kind all at the same time." "What if she doesn't like me?" "Then we'll figure it out together. But Veronica, that kid has been waiting her whole life for someone like you to show her what's possible." Logan pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "Trust me, you're going to be amazing." The next evening, Logan's house in Palo Alto felt different with Veronica in it. She'd changed from her usual corporate armor into jeans and a soft green sweater that matched her eyes, but she still moved through his space like she was afraid to touch anything important. Logan watched her take in the family photos on the mantel, the artwork Harmony had created over the years that covered the refrigerator, the comfortable chaos of a home built around a child's needs. "It's beautiful," Veronica said, running her fingers along the piano where Harmony practiced every day. "It feels like home. It will be your home too, if you want it to be." Logan pulled 2 wine glasses from the cabinet, then thought better of it and reached for coffee mugs instead. "Eventually, when you're ready." Harmony chose that moment to thunder down the stairs, her dark hair in 2 messy braids and her favorite dress, the one with pockets that she insisted was essential for carrying important things, smoothed down nervously. She stopped at the bottom of the staircase and studied Veronica with the direct, unself-conscious gaze that Logan recognized as uniquely his daughter's. "Hi," Harmony said simply. "I'm Harmony Barrett, and I'm 12 years old. Dad says you're very important to him." Veronica knelt down to Harmony's eye level, her usual corporate confidence replaced by something softer. "Hi, Harmony. I'm Veronica Sterling, and your father is very important to me too. I hear you want to be a CEO someday." "Maybe. Or maybe an astronaut. Or maybe both." Harmony tilted her head, considering. "Are you going to marry my dad?" "Harmony." Logan's coffee mug clattered against the counter. "You can't just—" "It's okay," Veronica said, never taking her eyes off Harmony. That's a very good question, and you deserve an honest answer. I don't know yet. Your dad and I are going to spend time together and see if we make each other happy. But if we do decide to get married, you'll be the first person we tell, and your opinion will matter very much to both of us. Harmony nodded solemnly, as if this was exactly the answer she'd been hoping for. Do you like pizza? I love pizza, especially the kind with way too much cheese. Good. Dad always orders vegetables on his half, which is basically a crime against pizza. Harmony grinned, and Logan saw the exact moment his daughter decided to like Veronica Sterling. Do you want to see my room? I have a project about women entrepreneurs that you could help me with. As Harmony dragged Veronica upstairs, chattering about her school assignment and her plans to revolutionize something, she hadn't decided what yet, Logan felt the last piece of his heart fall into place. This was what he'd been missing. Not just romantic love, but the sense of family completeness that came from watching the two most important women in his life discover each other. 2 hours later, he found them in Harmony's room, surrounded by poster board and colored markers, deep in discussion about the challenges of running a business while being taken seriously as a woman. Veronica was explaining the importance of mentorship, while Harmony took notes in her careful 12-year-old handwriting. The hardest part, Veronica was saying, isn't being smart enough or working hard enough. It's learning that you don't have to choose between being successful and being kind. Some people will tell you that business is ruthless, that you have to step on others to get ahead. But the most successful people I know are the ones who lift others up with them. Is that why you build affordable housing? Harmony looked up from her notes. Dad showed me the article about your Oakland project. Those families looked really happy. Veronica's smile was radiant. That's exactly why. Making money is great, but making a difference is better. Dad always says the best businesses solve real problems for real people. Your dad is a very smart man. Veronica glanced at Logan standing in the doorway. In fact, his company's education software has helped millions of kids learn to read better. That's the kind of impact that matters. Logan's heart swelled as he watched his daughter and the woman he loved bond over shared values and big dreams. This was how it was supposed to be. Natural, easy, right. Over the following weeks, Veronica slowly integrated into their lives. She joined them for Harmony's piano recital, cheering louder than any parent in the audience when his daughter flawlessly performed a Chopin piece she'd been practicing for months. She helped with math homework, her patient explanations finally making algebra click for Harmony in a way Logan's attempts never had. She even learned to make pancakes from scratch because Harmony mentioned she'd never had homemade ones. But the most remarkable change was in Veronica herself. The Ice Queen facade that had protected her for 15 years began to thaw, revealing the woman Logan had fallen in love with in college. She laughed more, worried less about perfect appearances, and started talking about the future with hope instead of resignation. 3 months after the beach rescue, Logan found Veronica in his garden at sunset, sitting cross-legged on the grass while Harmony taught her to braid flower crowns. The sight of her in jeans and one of his old Stanford t-shirts, her hair loose around her shoulders and dirt under her fingernails, took his breath away. "You know," he said, settling beside them on the grass, "I never thought I'd see Veronica Sterling making daisy chains. She's surprisingly good at it," Harmony announced, holding up her creation. "Better than you, Dad. Yours always fall apart." "I have many hidden talents," Veronica said solemnly, placing a crown of white daisies on Harmony's head, "including the ability to French braid hair, which your father has definitely never mastered. Can you teach me? Dad tried once, and it looked like I'd been attacked by a blender." "I would love to teach you." Veronica's voice caught slightly on the words. "If you want to learn." Logan watched the exchange with wonder. The woman who'd once told him she didn't know how to be maternal was currently braiding his daughter's hair while explaining the mathematical principles behind structural engineering. Harmony hung on every word, asking questions that would have intimidated most adults, but that Veronica answered with patience and genuine enthusiasm. That night, after Harmony had gone to bed wearing her flower crown and clutching a business plan she and Veronica had drafted for a company that would make eco-friendly school supplies, Logan and Veronica sat on his back porch sharing a bottle of wine. "She's incredible," Veronica said, her head resting on Logan's shoulder. "I can see why you're so proud of her. She adores you, you know. Last week she asked if you could come to career day at her school instead of me." Logan chuckled. Apparently, tech CEOs are boring compared to real estate moguls who build affordable housing. She has excellent priorities. Veronica was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "Logan, I need to tell you something." The seriousness in her voice made him straighten. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about what you said, about figuring out our future together, and I realize there's something I never told you, something I need you to understand before we go any further." Logan felt his stomach drop. "Veronica, when I was 19 and got my diagnosis, the doctors explained all the medical details, the treatments that might help, the possibility of carrying a pregnancy to term with significant intervention. But what they didn't tell me was how it would feel to watch everyone around me build families while I convinced myself I didn't want one." She turned to face him, her green eyes bright with unshed tears. "I told myself for so long that I didn't want children, that I was happy building my career instead. But the truth is I was terrified to want something I might never have. It was easier to pretend I didn't care than to admit how much it hurt." "Veronica, let me finish." She took a shaky breath. "Being with you and Harmony these past few months, seeing what it means to be part of a family, I realize I do want this. I want us. I want to be someone Harmony can count on, someone who shows up for school plays and graduation and all the big moments in her life. I want to build something beautiful with you, even if it looks different than what we imagined when we were 22. Logan cupped her face in his hands, his thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. "Are you sure? Because once you're in, you're in. Harmony doesn't do casual relationships, and neither do I. If we're doing this, we're doing it forever. I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Veronica's smile was radiant. "I love you, Logan Barrett. I love your brilliant mind and your terrible jokes and the way you cry during Disney movies just like I do. I love how you've raised Harmony to be confident and kind and curious about everything. And I love the man you've become, even more than I loved the boy you were." "I love you too," Logan whispered, sealing the words with a kiss that tasted like wine and possibility and 15 years of waiting. "Both versions of you, the woman you were and the woman you've become." They were married 6 months later in a ceremony that perfectly reflected their unconventional love story. Instead of a traditional church wedding, they exchanged vows on the same Monterey beach where Logan had saved Veronica's life, with Harmony as their maid of honor and a small gathering of friends and family as witnesses. Veronica wore a simple white dress that she could actually move in, her hair loose and flowers braided through it by Harmony that morning. Logan's Stanford class ring caught the sunlight as he slipped a matching wedding band onto Veronica's finger, both of them laughing through tears as they promised to love each other through whatever challenges life might bring. "You know," Logan said during his vows, "I used to think that day on the beach was about me saving you. But I realize now that you saved me too. You saved me from a life that was successful but incomplete, from believing that what I had was enough when I was really just settling for less than we could have together." Veronica's vows were characteristically direct and honest. "I spent 15 years running from this love because I was afraid I wasn't enough. But you've taught me that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. And the reality is that I'd rather have an imperfect life with you than a perfect life without you." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Harmony cheered so loudly that the seagulls took flight in a cloud of white wings. Later, at the reception in Veronica's garden, she gave a toast that brought every adult to tears. "My dad used to be sad sometimes," she said, standing on a chair so everyone could see her. "He thought I didn't notice, but I did. He tried really hard to be happy for me, but there was always something missing. Then Veronica came back into our lives, and everything got brighter. She makes Dad laugh at really bad jokes, and she helps me with homework, and she's teaching me that girls can build anything they want if they work hard enough." Harmony paused, looking directly at Veronica with the solemnity that made her seem much older than her 13 years. "I know some people think families have to look a certain way, but I think families are just people who choose to love each other every day. And I choose you, Veronica. I choose all of us." The reception lasted until well past midnight, with dancing and laughter and the kind of joy that comes from dreams finally becoming reality. But the moment Logan would remember most clearly was late in the evening, when he found Veronica and Harmony sitting together on the garden swing, heads bent close as they planned the vegetable garden they wanted to plant together in the spring. "What are you two plotting now?" he asked, settling beside them on the swing. "We're going to grow everything from scratch," Harmony announced. "Tomatoes and carrots and herbs for cooking. Veronica says there's nothing better than food you grew yourself. Plus, it'll teach you patience and responsibility," Veronica added, smoothing Harmony's hair back from her face. "And the science behind how plants grow." "Everything's a learning opportunity with you two," Logan observed, pulling them both closer. "I love it." As they swayed gently in the evening breeze, Logan marveled at how perfectly the pieces of his life had finally fallen into place. He had his work, which fulfilled his need to create and innovate. He had Harmony, who challenged him to be better every day. And now he had Veronica, who made him remember who he'd always wanted to become. "What are you thinking about?" Veronica asked softly, noticing his contemplative mood. "Just this. All of it." Logan gestured to encompass their home, their family, their future. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong." "Nothing's going to go wrong," Harmony said with the confidence of youth. "We're too happy for anything bad to happen." "That's not how life works, sweetheart," Veronica said gently. "Sometimes difficult things happen even when we're happy. But the difference is we'll face them together. Whatever comes, we'll handle it as a family." Logan squeezed them both tighter, knowing that Veronica was right. Life would bring challenges. It always did. But for the first time in 15 years, he wasn't facing the future alone. He had partners, teammates, people who'd chosen to build something beautiful together. And if a tech billionaire could fall in love with the same woman twice, if a real estate mogul could learn to braid flowers and make pancakes, if a 12-year-old could help two adults remember how to trust in happily ever after, then maybe anything was possible. The three of them sat in comfortable silence as stars appeared overhead, each lost in their own thoughts about the future they were building together. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new adventures. But tonight, they were exactly where they belonged. 5 years later, Logan stood in the same spot on Monterey Beach where everything had changed, watching Veronica teach their newly adopted 6-year-old son Marcus how to build the perfect sand castle. Harmony, now 18 and about to start her freshman year at Stanford, was helping by providing engineering advice that was probably far too sophisticated for castle construction. "The foundation needs to be wider, Marcus," she explained patiently. "You can't build height without stability." "Like Veronica's buildings?" Marcus asked, his dark eyes serious as he considered the architectural principles his big sister was teaching him. "Exactly like Veronica's buildings." Harmony grinned at her stepmother, who was covered in sand and looking happier than Logan had ever seen her. Everything she builds lasts forever because she thinks about the foundation first. Veronica caught Logan's eye over Marcus's head, her smile soft with the contentment that had replaced the careful control she'd once worn like armor. The adoption had been finalized 6 months ago, after 2 years of paperwork and home visits and the kind of bureaucratic obstacles that would have defeated a less determined couple. But Veronica had approached creating their family with the same methodical passion she brought to her business deals, and Logan had learned that when Veronica Sterling Barrett set her mind to something, the universe had no choice but to comply. "Dad, come help us," Marcus called, waving a plastic shovel in Logan's direction. "We're making a castle big enough for giants." "In a minute, buddy. I'm just enjoying the view." Logan pulled out his phone and snapped a picture of his family, adding it to the album he'd been keeping since that first day when Veronica had agreed to dinner with him and Harmony. Hundreds of photos now documented their life together: birthday parties and school plays, family vacations and quiet Sunday mornings, all the ordinary moments that made up an extraordinary love story. His phone buzzed with a text from his assistant. "The Forbes interview wants to know if you're available for a follow-up call about the Unconventional Families in Tech article." Logan smiled, remembering the cover story that had run 3 months ago, featuring successful entrepreneurs who'd built their families through adoption, blended marriages, and other non-traditional paths. The article had generated thousands of responses from readers sharing their own stories of love found in unexpected places. "What's so funny?" Veronica asked, settling beside him on their beach blanket while the kids continued their construction project. "Just thinking about that Forbes article. The reporter asked me what advice I'd give to other single parents looking for love, and I realized I didn't have any. No wisdom to share with the masses?" Veronica teased, leaning against his shoulder. "The great Logan Barrett, stumped by a simple question? The thing is, there's no formula for this. No algorithm that guarantees you'll find your person, no step-by-step guide to building a family." Logan wrapped his arm around her, marveling as always at how perfectly she fit against his side. Sometimes you just have to almost lose someone to realize what you've been missing. Sometimes you have to save someone's life on a beach. Sometimes you have to be brave enough to admit you were wrong about what you thought you wanted. They watched Marcus carefully pack sand around the base of his castle, while Harmony showed him how to create turrets that wouldn't collapse under their own weight. The afternoon sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that reminded Logan of their wedding day. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gone for that walk that day?" Veronica asked quietly. "If I'd stayed home, if you'd chosen a different beach, if the timing had been just slightly off?" "Every day for the first year," Logan admitted. "I used to drive myself crazy thinking about all the ways we might have missed each other again. But then I realized something." "What?" "We would have found each other eventually. Maybe not that day, maybe not in that way, but somehow. Some people are just meant to be in each other's lives, even if it takes them 15 years and a near-death experience to figure it out." Veronica was quiet for a moment, watching their children play in the sand where she'd almost died 6 years ago. "I used to think fate was just an excuse people used when they didn't want to take responsibility for their choices. But now I think maybe some things are bigger than our individual decisions. Maybe some love stories are so important that the universe conspires to make them happen, even when the people involved are too stubborn or scared to write them themselves." "Are you getting philosophical on me, Mrs. Barrett?" Logan pressed a kiss to her temple, breathing in the scent of salt air and the jasmine perfume that had become as familiar to him as his own heartbeat. "I'm getting grateful, Mr. Barrett. There's a difference." "Grateful for what?" Veronica gestured toward their children, toward the life they'd built together, toward the future that stretched ahead of them, full of possibility. "All of it. The good stuff, the hard stuff, the stuff that almost broke us before it made us stronger. I'm grateful for second chances and stubborn daughters and men who know how to perform CPR when it matters most. I'm grateful for women who are brave enough to love me, despite my terrible jokes and my tendency to work too much and my complete inability to braid hair properly. You've gotten better at the hair braiding. Only because I had an excellent teacher. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun sank lower on the horizon, painting the ocean in shades of copper and gold. Around them, other families were packing up their beach gear and heading home, but Logan felt no urge to leave. This place would always be special to them, not just because it was where their second chance began, but because it represented everything they'd learned about taking risks and choosing love over fear. "Dad! Veronica! Come see ye!" Marcus's excited voice broke through their reverie. He was standing beside a sandcastle that was definitely more ambitious than anything a 6-year-old should have been able to construct, complete with multiple towers, a working drawbridge, and what appeared to be a functioning moat system. "Harmony helped," Marcus announced proudly. "But I did all the decorating myself." Logan examined the castle more closely and burst out laughing. Marcus had used shells and pieces of seaweed to create what was unmistakably a family portrait in the sand. 2 tall figures, 1 medium-sized figure, and 1 small figure, all holding hands around the base of the main tower. "It's us," Marcus explained unnecessarily. "In our castle. It's perfect, buddy." Logan ruffled his son's sandy hair, his heart full of the simple joy that came from being exactly where he belonged. Absolutely perfect. As they walked back to the car that evening, tired and sandy and completely content, Harmony fell into step beside Veronica. At 18, she was taller than her stepmother now, but she still sought out Veronica's approval and advice on everything from college courses to boy troubles to her plans for starting her own non-profit organization. "Veronica, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Do you ever regret waiting so long to have a family? I mean, you could have had kids in your 20s if you'd made different choices." Veronica considered the question seriously, as she did all of Harmony's inquiries about life and love and the complicated business of being a woman in the modern world. "I used to think I'd wasted 15 years being afraid. But now I realize those years weren't wasted. They were preparation. I needed to become the person I am now before I could be the mother you and Marcus deserve." "But what if Dad had found someone else? What if you'd missed your chance completely? Then I would have had to live with that choice." "But Harmony, here's what I've learned about regret. It's not really about the roads we didn't take. It's about not fully appreciating the road we're on." Veronica stopped walking and turned to face the young woman who'd become so much more than a stepdaughter. "I could spend the rest of my life wishing I'd been braver sooner, or I can spend it being grateful that I was brave enough eventually." Harmony nodded thoughtfully, filing away another piece of wisdom to carry with her into adulthood. "I'm glad you were brave eventually too, and I'm glad Dad almost drowned that day." "She didn't almost drown," Logan protested from behind them, Marcus riding on his shoulders like a conquering hero returning from battle. "She did drown. Technically, for about 30 seconds. Best 30 seconds of our lives." Veronica laughed, reaching for Logan's free hand as they approached their car. "Even if I didn't appreciate it at the time." "Hey, Mom," Marcus said suddenly, using the title that still made Veronica's heart skip a beat every time she heard it. "Can we come back here next week? I want to build an even bigger castle." "We can come back whenever you want, sweetheart. This is our beach now." "Our beach," Marcus repeated with satisfaction, as if claiming ownership of a stretch of Pacific coastline was the most natural thing in the world. Logan loaded their beach gear into the trunk while Veronica buckled Marcus into his car seat, and Harmony claimed the front passenger seat, already pulling out her phone to update her college friends on the family's latest adventure. This was their life now, messy and loud and perfectly imperfect, full of small moments that added up to something extraordinary. As they drove home through the California twilight, Logan caught Veronica's eye in the rearview mirror. She was listening to Marcus's elaborate plans for next week's castle construction, her face soft with the kind of contentment that couldn't be faked or forced. This was the woman he'd fallen in love with twice. First for her brilliant mind and fierce ambition, then for her capacity to love so completely that it transformed everyone around her. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, noticing his scrutiny. "Just wondering what our 22-year-old selves would think if they could see us now. Your 22-year-old self would probably be impressed that you figured out how to balance work and family so well. My 22-year-old self would be amazed that Veronica Sterling agreed to marry me and adopt my chaos. Your chaos is the best part." Veronica reached forward to squeeze his shoulder. "Besides, it's our chaos now." "Can we get pizza for dinner?" Marcus asked from the back seat, derailing their romantic moment with the practical concerns of a hungry 6-year-old. "We had pizza last night," Harmony pointed out, "and the night before that." "Pizza is a food group," Marcus argued with the unshakable logic of childhood. "Dad told me so. I was joking, buddy." "Too late. You can't take it back now." Veronica grinned at Logan in the mirror. "You've created a monster." "I've created a Barrett," Logan corrected. "We're all obsessed with food, stubborn about our opinions, and completely devoted to the people we love. Marcus fits right in." "Are we really stubborn?" Harmony asked. "You spent 6 months researching the best colleges for environmental engineering before you'd even let us start visiting campuses," Veronica pointed out. "And that was after you'd already changed your major 3 times. That's not stubborn. That's thorough." "That's definitely stubborn," Logan and Veronica said in unison, causing Marcus to dissolve into giggles from the back seat. "You're all crazy," he announced with the delighted tone of a child who'd found his perfect family despite their obvious flaws. "But good crazy." "The best kind of crazy," Veronica agreed, settling back in her seat as they turned into their neighborhood. "The kind that builds sandcastles and eats too much pizza and believes in happily ever after." Later that night, after Marcus had been tucked into bed with stories about brave knights and beautiful princesses, and Harmony had retreated to her room to video chat with friends, Logan and Veronica sat on their back porch sharing a bottle of wine and watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. "Do you think he'll remember this?" Veronica asked, curling up against Logan's side on the porch swing they'd installed the year they were married. "The beach day? Probably not specifically. But he'll remember the feeling. He'll remember being part of a family that chooses to spend time together, that builds things together, that shows up for each other no matter what." Logan pressed a kiss to her hair. "That's what I remember from my childhood. Not specific days, but the sense of being completely loved and absolutely secure." "I hope we're giving them that." "We are. Both of them." Logan's voice was certain. "Harmony's going to change the world, and she's going to do it with the confidence that comes from growing up in a house where big dreams are encouraged and failure is just another word for learning opportunity." "And Marcus?" "Marcus is going to be whoever he wants to be, with the knowledge that his family will support him no matter what, whether he becomes an engineer like his sister, or an artist, or a professional sandcastle builder." Veronica laughed softly. "Professional sandcastle builder is a legitimate career option now. In the Barrett family, everything is a legitimate career option as long as it makes you happy and helps other people." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts about the future they were building together. Logan thought about the company he was growing, the technologies they were developing to make education more accessible to kids around the world. Veronica thought about the affordable housing projects she had in development, the communities she was helping to create for families who needed a fresh start. But mostly, they both thought about the life they'd built together, imperfect and complicated, and absolutely beautiful in its realness. "Logan," Veronica said suddenly, her voice soft in the darkness. "Thank you." For what? For not giving up on us. For seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself. For building a family that has room for everyone, even the broken pieces. Logan turned to face her fully, cupping her face in his hands the way he had that first day in her office when she'd finally told him the truth about her fears. We're not broken, Veronica. We're just uniquely assembled. Uniquely assembled? Some families start with a traditional foundation and build up from there. Others get put together from pieces that don't seem like they should fit, but somehow create something even stronger. Logan smiled, his thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. We're definitely the second kind. I love our uniquely assembled family. I love you, Logan said simply. All of you. The woman you were, the woman you are, the woman you're still becoming. I love our loud, chaotic, perfectly imperfect life. Even when Marcus insists pizza is a vegetable. Especially then. Veronica kissed him then, soft and sweet, and full of the promise of all the tomorrows they'd spend together. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his and whispered, "Who would have thought that almost drowning would turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to me?" Technically, you did drown, for about 30 seconds. Best 30 seconds of my life, she repeated, echoing the words that had become their family's unofficial motto, even if I didn't appreciate it at the time. As they sat together in the darkness, surrounded by the evidence of the life they'd built together, Logan marveled at the unexpected paths that had brought them to this moment. A beach rescue that became a second chance. A broken heart that healed stronger than before. A love story that had taken 15 years to write, but was worth every moment of waiting. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adventures, new opportunities to choose love over fear. But tonight, they were exactly where they belonged. Together, complete, and living proof that sometimes the most beautiful stories are the ones that almost never get told.